Well, a major political conflict is unfolding in Texas, centered on the drawing of new political maps. To stop a Republican-led effort, many Texas Democratic lawmakers recently left the state. This dramatic move was designed to prevent the Texas House from having enough members present to vote. Without the Democrats, the House cannot reach what is called a quorum, which is the minimum number of lawmakers needed to conduct official business. This action brought the legislative session to a sudden halt and escalated a tense political battle into a full-blown crisis with legal and national implications. The Democrats' decision to flee was not made lightly. It was a last-ditch effort to block the passage of a new congressional map. Most of the 62 Democrats in the Texas House participated in the walkout, leaving the Republican majority unable to proceed with their agenda. They argue that the proposed map is unfair and designed solely to increase Republican power in Washington, D.C. At the heart of this conflict is a process called redistricting. Every 10 years, after the U.S. Census counts the population, states must redraw the boundaries of their legislative and congressional districts. The goal is to ensure that each district has roughly the same number of people so that every citizen has equal representation. This process is, fundamental to American democracy. The process becomes controversial because the party in power often tries to draw the maps to its own advantage. This is known as gerrymandering. They can draw lines to concentrate the opposing party's voters into a few districts, a technique called packing, or they can spread the opposing party's voters thinly across many districts so they cannot form a majority, a technique called cracking. In Texas, Republicans control the state government, which means they have the power to draw the new maps. Democrats argue that the proposed maps are a clear example of gerrymandering. They claim the new lines are drawn to dilute the voting power of minority communities and urban areas, which tend to vote for Democrats. The Republican plan for redistricting is ambitious and aims to significantly strengthen the party's position. Their proposed map is designed to create more districts where Republican candidates are highly likely to win. The central goal of the GOP's new congressional map is to secure 5 additional seats for their party in the U.S. House. This would be a major victory for the National Republican Party. To achieve this, the proposed map strategically redraws district lines across the state. It targets areas with changing demographics, particularly the growing suburbs and urban centers where Democrats have been gaining ground. By carefully carving up these communities and combining them with more conservative rural areas, the map aims to make several currently competitive districts safer for Republicans. The push for this mid-decade redistricting effort was reportedly encouraged by national Republican figures, including former President Donald Trump. The timing is critical, as Republicans are facing a potentially difficult midterm election. Texas leaders have been firm in their commitment to passing the map. Governor Greg Abbott has made it a priority for the special legislative session, and House Speaker Dustin Burrows has been leading the effort to get it passed in the chamber. Faced with a Republican majority determined to pass the new map, Texas Democrats chose a dramatic and, risky strategy. They left the state. By fleeing Texas, they deprived the House of Representatives of a quorum, which is the minimum number of members required to be present to conduct official business. Their destination was Illinois, a state with a Democratic governor, where they believed they would be safe from the legal reach of Texas authorities. Their goal was twofold: to physically block the vote and to elevate the fight to the national stage. From their temporary base in Illinois, the Democrats engaged in a public relations campaign. They held press conferences, gave interviews to national news outlets, and met with federal lawmakers in Washington, D.C. They framed their walkout as a fight for the soul of democracy. The Democrats' actions also had a ripple effect across the country, threatening to start a so-called national redistricting war. In response to the Texas GOP's plan, Democratic leaders in other states began discussing their own aggressive redistricting strategies. The Republican leadership in Texas responded to the Democrats' walkout with swift and, honestly, pretty severe measures. Unwilling to let the legislative session fail, House Speaker Dustin Burrows took the extraordinary step of signing civil arrest warrants for the absent lawmakers. These warrants authorize state law enforcement to find the Democrats and compel their return to the House chamber, but only if they set foot back in Texas. To escalate the pressure, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and Speaker Burrows took their legal fight across state lines. They filed a legal action in an Illinois court, asking it to enforce the Texas arrest warrants in that state. Their argument relied on the full faith and credit clause of the U.S. Constitution, which generally requires states to honor the judicial proceedings of other states. Governor Greg Abbott publicly supported these strong measures, vowing to continue the fight for as long as it takes. He made it clear that he would call as many special sessions as necessary to pass the redistricting map. In a stern warning to the absent Democrats, Abbott said the conflict could literally last years. He stated that the lawmakers would essentially have to remain outside of Texas indefinitely to avoid arrest. The situation remains at a tense impasse with significant consequences for the future. The conflict has become a symbol of the deep partisan polarization in American politics, where routine processes like redistricting have transformed into high-stakes battles with no easy resolution in sight. What happens next in Texas will be watched closely by the entire nation.